You mentioned the nexus of politics and science. I really like that phrase because I think of so many of the conversations I'm having here, it seems to me that politics and science are really just linked all the time. It explains why so many people want to talk to you and why they want to talk to the Weinstein brothers and Sam Harris and so many other people. Are you a little concerned that it's becoming so political?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that what I'm doing and what some of your other guests have been doing is to try to depoliticize some of the scientific issues, and that's certainly what I tried to do in the Blank Slate, or clarify what the political issues are.
Yeah,
and not
but it's almost impossible these days, right?
It is becoming a little bit. Well, the landscape is really diverse and divided. I mean, there are the identity politicians and the social justice warriors and the political correctness police who are kind of making things as political as possible. I mean, they've been around for a long time. When I was a student in the 70s, there were plenty of people who were shouting things like fascists don't have the right to speak, or chanting mobs that shut down my Harvard colleague E.O. Wilson when he published sociobiology. So this isn't a new thing. And there are certainly constituencies that are totally open to depoliticizing the science and considering the politics on its own terms. But on the other hand, there is a fringe that appears to be more radical than ever.
Yeah, how do you decide how much weight that fringe has? That seems to be one of the themes these days. It seems to be very hard to tell. Is this just this small group that's screaming a lot, or has it truly infected not only a ton of the millennial generation and a huge swath of young people, but that also it does seem to be creeping up or creeping down, depending on which way you look at it, a ton of academics at universities and all sorts of other people that actually have power.
Well, I think the academics have been distorted for quite some time, and this is an idea that's been pushed by Jonathan Haidt, Philip Tetlock, Jose Duarte, Charlotta Stern. They had a pretty widely discussed article that the title something like "Viewpoint Diversity Will Help Social Science," where they gave a number of cases, some of which I had discussed in the Blank Slate, of how just the questions that psychologists ask, the items they put on their questionnaires, the way they frame issues, just clearly has a left-wing bias. That they argued that if there were also conservatives in more of them in psych departments, then they would have pointed out, hey, your questionnaire is flawed.
Right.
And that the actual quality of the science would improve. And to the credit of my field of psychology, their paper was published there in a journal where there were 30 commentaries. So 30 people had a chance to go after them, or teams. And there was disagreement, but it was very respectful. They weren't called any nasty names, and it was a really good debate. But the question that you asked about how is this are the totally illiberal and radical movements, the ones that just shout down speakers, sometimes physically assault them. Is that the whole millennial generation, or is that just an increasingly vocal fringe? My mind was changed just a couple of days ago when I read an article in Vox about a new study. Sam Harris had sent it to me, saying that actually support for free speech is increasing, including.
I saw the article.
You saw the article?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that I wasn't. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't totally shocked.
Yeah.
Because at least my experience at Harvard is that the students are, all the ones that I've interacted with, admittedly a biased sample, but they are perfectly supportive of debate, free speech, openness.
So it's interesting. So I mentioned right before we started that I spoke at Harvard through the Open Campus Initiative.
Yes, right.
And it was a wonderful group, and it was clear that they were politically diverse and all the other diversity that everyone likes, but that I don't care about that much. But afterwards, we went to a dinner, and there were about 30 or 40 kids. I was with Brett Weinstein, actually. And I asked them, like, what do you guys, are you guys okay saying what you think? And do you think it's going to hurt your grades or hurt your friendship? And virtually everyone said yes. So I'm still struggling with this because I did read,
they said
yes, that it would either hurt them or they've lost friends. I mean, mostly, I sense most of them were kind of libertarian-ish, kind of live and let live. But certainly not all of them. But virtually everyone at the table said that they either were afraid to say certain things to friends or certainly to professors. So that's why when I read the articles like that at Vox and I go to these campuses and I hear this consistently, it's just hard to grade. And that's exactly why I'm posing the question to you. Yeah, it's just hard to pin.
But this article was eye-opening. That went against the narrative that the millennial generation are a bunch of snowflakes. They're a bunch of cultural revolutionaries, the warriors. It's just that there certainly is that faction, but it may not characterize our era altogether.
Yeah. Have you thought at all about how much social media is a piece of this puzzle?
Well, I don't know, and that's nowadays. Everything is blamed on social media. So
Right.
It's kind of like, what the role of El Nino in the 1990s. Whatever happened, you blame it on El Nino.
That was on MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know. A lot of this, I think, predated social media. I think that cable news networks had a role, Fox News in particular, because it was so politicized in a way that no previous network really had been. And there are studies showing that when a town gets Fox News, and you could do the natural experiment because some towns got it before others just because the way cable companies offered different packages for no particular reason. You could tell that the towns that got Fox News became more polarized and became shifted to the right.
Wow,
so it really did have a causal effect. That's one case where it's not just correlational.
Yeah. So you had a strange moment about a month or two ago, about 2 months ago now, where you said something to the effect of, someone asked you a question at a panel about the alt-right, and in effect you said, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What did you say?
Well, this was
I don't want to butcher
Open Campus Initiative.
Yeah. Oh, it was it?
They were the ones that sponsored the event.
Okay, there you go. So I know this is a good group of people you were sitting with.
It was, and the topic of the event was, did political correctness help elect Trump? It was held almost on the anniversary of the 2016 election. And I suggested that I thought it did, in part because when you have certain ideas that are just not discussable on campus, and you've got a savvy, interconnected community, as the original alt-right were. A lot of people associate alt-right with the torch-carrying skinheads, but what I had in mind was the term as it originally applied to internet discussion groups. Mm-hmm. And that the danger of restricting debate on campus, of making certain ideas taboo, is that when smart people do stumble upon them, then they, number one, are completely alienated from the mainstream intellectual life because they think, well, this is a truth that they can't handle. What other truths can't they handle? And they, since the ideas never get expressed, the kind of pushback and contextualization and counter-arguments, the kind of thing that you want for any idea, never happens. And within this like-minded community, they sometimes jump to the most extreme conclusions.
So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts.
Yeah. And so I mean, an example being gender differences. If it's taboo even to mention the possibility that men and women differ, then you stumble across some pretty good scientific evidence that they do. Then you might be like Milo Yiannopoulos saying, oh, we should have fewer women in medical school because they're just going to drop out and have babies. Now, I mean, that's a totally idiotic idea. Mm-hmm. But the reason that he could put forward an idiotic idea is that since the whole existence of sex difference was never discussed, no one ever said that's an idiotic idea.
Yeah.
And likewise, and there are a number of other facts that are kind of undiscussable that you can take to extreme conclusions if you're not challenged, whereas if you bring them out into the open, then you can put them into perspective.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
In many cases it is. Another example is that rates of crime differ between blacks and whites. Now, if that's a fact that's almost undiscussable, but just go to FBI.gov, look up, they break down rates of crime by age, by race, by state, and there it is. Now, if you have never even noticed that, then you can say, oh, gee, I wonder if African Americans are innately more violent than whites. Now, that's completely wrong because we know that no two ethnic groups ever have the same crime rate, and they can shift over time. It used to be the Irish that had sky-high rates of violence compared to the non-Irish, and we know that vanished over time, and the black-white difference might as well. But that second fact, namely ethnic and racial differences are ubiquitous and they can change with time, will never even get mentioned if the mere fact that there is a difference is unmentionable in the first place.